Yeah, I'm finding this with my classes in general. I don't know if it's like lots of people are starting to get COVID. I hope not, or like people for my classes, there we go, did not want to focus in on me. Think that they can just watch the videos or what. But yeah, I'm finding that like not a lot of people are showing up. So hopefully that won't be the case for long. It's also the week before break, which like starts to get things going for people. So let me catch you up on where we're at and where we're going to be with things. So, morning, Troy. So we are basically here right now. You are here, little dot on the map. And originally what I had planned was for Wednesday to be a group project work day. Because again, just because of everything going on, I like didn't post the take home in time. And I'd really like to give us the opportunity to be able to do this SPSS stuff together. There's a group activity I'd like you to be able to do. And then also just, I'd like to move the exam to Friday. So if that's going to be a problem for anyone's schedule, just let me know. And then, yeah, we will. Oh, good morning. I didn't miss that. We will go from there. So today we'll do SPSS. We'll head over the computer. You won't have to fight over computers. I mean, you'll be able to do it really well. And then we will, like I said, Wednesday, do that group activity, do some starting to get together with your groups for the projects and think about things. And we could kind of like cement groups that day, because I know there were a couple people who weren't sure which one they were going to end up on. And then on Friday, we'll do the exam. And the exam, so the take home is shorter for this one. You only have 2 essay questions if you've looked at it. And then the in-class is not necessarily longer because there's fewer multiple choice questions. It's just more of the like short answer. So you will have to, hey, come on in. You will have to do a little bit of math, nothing too big, and then some like explanations for things as well. Hey, come on in. And so part of what will be on the exam is not having to use SPSS, but just a few questions about SPSS in general, which is why I wanted to make sure we got that in. So I'm going to write a little note for anyone else who comes later. Does anyone remember the room number? Is it 107? That's one right. Yeah. I always mess up that room and the interview and observation room. So. Sure. Okay. So go ahead and gather up your stuff. And Troy, I think you're the only one on remotely. I'll sign back in when I get over to that room so you can follow along at home. And we're going to go learn SPSS. And you're going to maybe be a little mad at me because you're going to be like, what do you mean you're making us do all this in my hand when SPSS will do it this quick? But there's a method to my madness, I swear. Hey, Troy, sorry, that took us a minute. So we're having some tech problems over here. And I can catch you up later on some of this. You know what? I'm just going to share my whole screen. So when I go back and forth between things, it'll okay.
No problem.
Yeah, thanks for understanding. The computer lab won't let me on its normal computer. So, all right, physical appearance comparison scale is a measure of how much you compare your body to someone else. This is a questionnaire people filled out. And then again, like here, were how they answered each question on just a Likert scale. That's what we call these when they have this 1 to 5, 1 to 7, what have you. The body appreciation scale is a measure of how much you like your own body. So that's not something we necessarily typically think of, but it's kind of a cool way to look at it instead of looking at how unhappy you are with your body. The figure rating scale here, we have, we give people pictures that go across that look like different size bodies. It starts really skinny and gets really big. And people choose first what they think their current body is, and then what their ideal would be, where they'd like their body to be. And the difference between those is a measure of body dissatisfaction. And then body checking is behavioral things you engage in. So the most common one that people endorse is you're walking by a reflective surface, like a store window, and you stop and kind of like check yourself out in it. Or you might like pinch your abdomen area, right? To like kind of check for fat. So that's body checking. And then the one that's down here, the CESD that I don't have labeled, that is a measure of depression, okay? Alrighty, so here is where we're gonna start using your instructions, and we're going to start to look at the basic statistics for testing. So we're gonna do some of the stuff that we've talked about already in class, and some of this will be different. So why are we doing this today? Well, the first reason is I want you to be able to understand how we would do this in a modern context, right? How would we do this if we didn't have to do stuff by hand? And the second reason is when you do your group project, after you collect your data, you'll be using SPSS to analyze them. So I like to introduce it at the beginning of the semester to start to get you all comfortable with it. Alrighty. So the nice thing about SPSS is everything's through drop-down menus. So if you go to the top and you go to Analyze, okay, then you can go to Descriptive Statistics, and this will give you a lot of what we've already been working with, honestly. We're going to start with the first one on that list, which is frequencies. So we're going to Analyze, then to Descriptive Statistics, and then to frequencies. So you could then look at some of this in terms of what are the breakdowns here. So I'm realizing for the example I gave you, it must have been a slightly different data set because it's asking you to use race, and I don't have one variable for race. But instead, what we're going to do is select all the races. So you'll select American Indian, African American, Asian American. And so you can do one of two things. You can double click it and it'll pop over into the list, or you can click it and then arrow it over. Okay, and then it'll come over. The other thing you can do, let me show you this real quick, is let's say I had this whole list here and I knew I want to put all of these over there. I could hit Shift, make sure I have the first one I want over selected, then the bottom one I have over selected, and then I could just put them all over at the same time. Okay, and so then you want to make sure American Indian, African American, Asian American, Caucasian, and Hispanic are all over under variables. And then you click OK. And this will give you a breakdown of how many people identified as each of those races or ethnicities. And so maybe not surprisingly, particularly since the second college we
collected data at is largely white. Like we're talking like 90% plus white. Most of our population is Caucasian. So this will just tell you what is the breakdown for the amount of people who endorse each type of ethnicity. So let's say that's nice. That gives us a nice, like, just basic number, right? Percentages, stuff like that. But what if we wanted to do some of the stuff we've been doing in class? So let's say we want to do mean and standard deviation, which we've been calculating by hand. So we go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics again. And this time we're going to choose the second one down on the list, which is descriptives. So Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Descriptives. Okay. Again, here, we could choose any number of variables that we have available to us, but let's say we really want to know what was our average age. What was the average age for the people here? So you would go ahead and click your age over. And again, remember, there's a couple ways to do it. You can select it, use the arrow, or you can just double click it. Okay, and then you just hit OK. You don't have to mess with anything else. And then if I scroll down, what you'll see is it has given us our mean age, which was almost 20, 19.9, and our standard deviation for age, 3.649. So all that stuff we've been doing by hand, where we calculate everything out, SPSS just did that in less than a second. And with a data set that has, I believe, hundreds of people in it. Let me look real quick. Yeah, it's got 220 people in it, right? It would take us forever to calculate that all out by hand. So one thing I'll say, as you all kind of are getting caught up here, is that a lot of people, when I start teaching them SPSS, are like, "Ooh, I don't like it. It's new, it's different." And I just emphasize this. This is saving you a whole lot of time, a whole lot of effort, right? Again, imagine calculating this all out by hand. It would be really obnoxious, right? So it can do things that would take us forever to do, like that. Alrighty. Another thing on that analysis we just did, so if we go back to Analyze Descriptive Statistics, Descriptives, if I were to select Save Standardized Values as Variables and click OK, and then I go back to my data set, what it has now done is created a Z-score for age. So again, we didn't have to convert to Z-score. It did it for us. And you can see, you know, some negative, some positive Z-scores relative to age. Looks like we have a couple outliers, probably people who are non-traditionally aged students, right? Who were several Z-scores above the mean. And that's great. I don't mind having those folks in, right? But most people are hanging right around the mean, just under or just over. And as we've talked about with the normal curve, that's what we typically find. So again, not something you have to do, but just something I like to show you so that you can kind of get a feel for, again, how we can play with some of these things.
Is this your project?
What's that, Troy?
Is this your project that you did?
Yes. Sorry, I had walked them through it before I remembered to turn Zoom back on. Yeah, this is a project that I've done previously.
Pretty impressive.
Thanks. Yeah, and this was a collab. So it was VWC X Kenyon. I'm like, sound pretty chill, pretty cool, only not. But yeah, this is something we were looking at, body materials and trying to see, you know, how they were operating. Alrighty, so now we're going to start talking about some of the stuff you're going to have to do when you do have your data from your group project. So we are going to talk about how you would create a sum score for these things. All right, and I'm just, again, realizing, apologies, I will send you guys the right one and try to print it out. That I gave you one that has the wrong variables, so I apologize. but I will sub in variable names as we go here. So we are going to do one recode for the packs. And give me just 1 second since I have the wrong sheet. I just want to make sure I'm going to recode the correct one. Pretty sure it's item 4, but I don't want to steer you wrong. Last night I really thought I made sure I had the right one. Good to go. Apparently not. These people translated the packs. That's nice. Okay, yep, number 4 is the one we're going to reverse. Okay. And you're probably like, what does that mean? But I will show you, I promise. So sometimes when people create questionnaires, I didn't want to open PowerPoint, they purposely put in items that are in the opposite direction. And they do this for several reasons. One can be to try to disguise what they're actually measuring. 2 is to see how people respond to things that are in the opposite direction. And 3 can be just getting more rich information. So in this case, the item from the PAX 4 is written in the opposite direction. So everything else is like, I compare myself a lot. And if we were to just use this as it's typically scored, it'd be like, I compare myself a little. Well, that's going to mess up a whole bunch of things. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what's called a recoding. So basically we're going to tell it that we want to flip the values, okay? And so again, were we to do this by hand, we'd have to go through for each one of these 220 people and retype their numbers. That's going to take us a while. SPSS will do it before us. Okay, so what we're going to do is to do transform and recode into different variables. Okay. And then we're going to choose that PACS4. And then we get to tell SPSS what we want to name the new one. So what I do is I just call it the same thing with an R at the end. And the R is just for recode, okay? So selecting PACS4 from the list, over here you write PACS4R and you click change. Okay, so basically we're telling SPSS, here's the variable we want you to recode, and we want you to create this new variable to put those recoded numbers into. Okay, so then we have to tell it how to do that. SPSS is pretty smart, but it's not perfectly smart. Okay, so this is a 1 to 5 scale, and I know that just because I've used the scale a lot, right? If not, I would have to look it up before I did this. So what we're going to do is we're just going to tell it to flip the value. So we're now saying, if this person has a 1, that should now be a 5. So we put 1 in old value, 5 in new value, and we click add. Same thing for if this person has a 2, it's now going to be a 4. Now, you would kind of think, oh, that's all we need to do. But again, SPSS is only so smart. So we actually need to tell it that when we're recoding, if they had a 3, it's going to stay a 3. And then we have to tell it to do the opposite. So we have to say, if it's a 4, it's now a 2. And we also have to say, if it's a 5, it's now a 1. So basically we're telling it, take their score and flip it. And because this is a 5-item Likert scale, the middle stays the same. So, but we have to tell it, if it's a 3, it stays a 3. If not, it just won't do anything with anyone who scored a 3. So again, SPSS is kind of smart, but it also needs our help. We got to help it out. Got to, stroke its little ego here. Okay, so 1 becomes 5, 2 becomes 4, 3 becomes 3, 4 becomes 2, 5 becomes 1. Okay, and then you hit continue. That'll bring you back to this original window, and then you hit OK. And it'll look like it hasn't really done anything. Maybe like, okay, I see something down here, but what? But if you go back to data view and you scroll all the way over, you will see it has now created a variable where it flipped those scores for you. So again, what would have probably taken us 5-10 minutes to do? SPSS just took this column and transposed it into this column. That quickly. So the first 3 numbers over there were 3, 4, 3, and now they're 3, 2, 3, right? It did it right. If you had other recodes, you would then do this for all of those. This scale only has 1 reverse coded item. So that's all we need to do. So this is something to think about as you're creating your questionnaire with your group. Do we want to have any items that are worded in the opposite direction, right? And then that we'll have to recode later. You don't have to, but obviously there are some advantages to doing that. All right, but let's go ahead, once we have all these items, what we're gonna wanna do is look at everything together. So we're gonna go ahead and say transform compute variable, and we're gonna do a total for that PAX we've just been working with. So PAX, and then we'll say tote or total. Yeah, total should work. Okay. And then what this numeric expression thing does over here is just allows you to do any kind of math with the numbers from those variables. So in this case, I believe the PAX is a straight sum. Okay, so I'm just going to do PAX 1 plus PAX 2 plus PAX 3. And then you might think, oh, plus PAX 4. Nope, remember, we just recoded that one. And if we included the originally coded variable, it would mess with our scores because it's in the opposite direction. So what you're going to do is go down and get that recode that you just made. Okay, then you're going to press plus again, and you can type the plus sign too. I'm just using these. So it's PAX 1 plus PAX 2 plus PAX 3 plus their PAX 4R and your PAX 5. If you know your variable names well, if you've been working with your data for a while, you could also just type this out without go finding the variables in the list. So once you have those 5 variables in here, PAX 1, PAX 2, PAX 3, PAX 4R, and PAX 5, then you would hit OK. And again, just like last time, you're only going to get a little bit of information down here. But if you look at the end of your data set, now it's created a total score for how people scored on those 5 items. So now you can see instead of like it just being 3, it's 12 because it's added up their scores on all the items. Questions so far? Anybody stuck? I'm trying to go super slow because I know not everyone's computer is going both. Yes, so today we're gonna do this, and then another day later in the semester, about the time you're getting your data back, we'll go back and do all the same stuff again, just to remind you about everything. Oh, I'm sorry, that's annoying. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're gonna have group project work days at the end of the semester where my understanding is this room is always free at this time. So we'll just come over here and you can like work with your group, with your data, and I'll just float around and help y'all. Yeah, I try to make this class like it's built in for me to help you with that stuff, basically. Yeah, because I know like for a lot of you, this is the first time you've messed with SPSS. So it can be a little daunting, but once you learn it, it's amazing. So I promise. Alrighty, the other thing we've been talking about, right, is reliability and validity. And that's a big part of why you're creating your questionnaire. So if you recall, when we're doing your questionnaire, you're creating it, right? Oh, that's ugly. Okay, never mind. I'll just say it. Where's the trash? I should just pitch it. Oh, there's not one. That's why it hasn't been pitched. Okay. So you are creating a questionnaire with however many items with your group, right? So you're going to give people that. And then you're also finding a questionnaire out there that measures something similar. And then you're also going to be looking at a questionnaire that measures something dissimilar, okay? And also you're gonna have a page for demographics. So you can get age and all that good stuff. So you'll be giving people essentially 4 questionnaires, won't be very long, right? And so one of the things that you're gonna do with your questionnaire is calculate reliability. And then you're gonna use those other questionnaires that already exist that are out there to look at validity. And again, I will work with your group on those things as well. And we can even start talking about that in class on Wednesday after we do our group activity. All right, so let's say we want to look at our reliability for this scale we've been looking at. So you go to Analyze, and then you go to Scale. It's maybe 2/3 of the way down the list. And then you'll see it just says Reliability Analysis. So Analyze, Scale, Reliability Analysis. Okay. And now we're going to do something pretty similar to what we just did, where we're going to take all those items of the PACS and put them over here. This one you do have to do the either double click or arrow over. Now, a big mistake people make here when they have recodes is throwing in the recode when they go to test reliability, or throwing in the one before they recode it, sorry. And that will really screw with your reliability because you've got something going in the opposite direction, right? So you want to make sure you pull up those ones you spent all that time recoding. So you want to make sure all those items are in there. Again, the 4R instead of just the 4. And then you're going to click OK. All right, so here you can see it gives you some good information. All 22 people answered this questionnaire. Woohoo! And you can see the Cronbach's alpha here is 0.78. So that's your reliability score. It just, again, did that for you. You didn't have to do it by hand. It did it that quickly. You might be like, Dr. Myers, you said this is not a very good reliability. True. The PACS is notorious for not being great with reliability. This, believe it or not, is actually a high reliability for what I've seen. I've seen some like below acceptable levels before. So not all questionnaires are good at this. I'm sorry to say. But this is for research purposes considered acceptable. So if you on your new questionnaire got a reliability around here, great. If you get one in the 0.9s, awesome. If you get one in the 0.5s, fine. It's a learning exercise. You're not getting graded on how good your scale is, if that makes sense. Alrighty, so now we'll look at some of the stuff about validity. So let's say we want to look at convergent validity. So something we think will be related to comparing your body to someone else. Well, we go to Analyze again, and validity analyses are just correlations. So we're going to go to Analyze, then Correlate, then Bivariate. Okay. And so now we're going to scroll all the way down that list, and we're going to see we have that PACS total down here. Okay, so we're going to bring that over. We want to look at what relates to the PACS. Okay, and then if you scroll up about 10 things, you'll see there's a couple other totals over here. So let's go ahead and bring over that body appreciation scale total and see what happens. So the body appreciation scale is just a measure of how much you like your body. So in theory, that should be correlated with whether you're bothering comparing your body unfavorably to other people, right? So we can click OK, and it runs the correlation for us. And so, yeah, probably not surprisingly, the more you like your body, the less likely you are to engage in these comparisons. So what this tells us, this negative 0.40, if you remember, negative just means they go in opposite directions. So as comparison goes up, body appreciation goes down, or we can flip it. The more you appreciate your body, the less you compare. And again, it's not causal, so we don't know the direction. And the 0.4 is a decently powerful correlation. And then this right here is your p-value, where it's a sig two-tailed. So this tells you p is less than 0.001. Pretty darn good. So this would be evidence for convergent validity, because these things we think should be related are, and in the way we would guess they should be related. But you're also, for your project, going to look at divergent validity. So go back to correlate and bivariate. Keep the PACS in there, but arrow that BAS back over. And then if you scroll down a few items right before the thing that says filter, there should be something that says CESD-FS. This is that measure of depression. And the FS just means full scale. I've already added it up for you. So this is the total of the items on the CESD. And so now what we're saying is SPSS, tell us how much this measure of appearance-related social comparison relates to depression. We would assume it's probably not as highly related, right? So we're going to correlate that PACS total you all calculated with the CESD full scale. Okay, so if you click OK, what you see is they are related, and people who are more depressed are engaging in more social comparison, but it's not as strong as the other one. So even though they are related, this is still evidence of discriminant validity, because it's not as highly related as it is to the variables linked to body. So you could, in your study, get something like this, where it's still significantly related to your discriminant validity variable, and that's okay. We know that things in psychology tend to be super related to each other, right? Where people who are feeling yucky about their body might also feel depressed, might also feel anxious, right? In general, have low self-esteem in general. And so for that reason, this result is not that surprising. But again, the magnitude of the correlation, how big that Pearson correlation is away from 0, is not as high as our 0.4. So we can say this is evidence of discriminant validity. All righty. Well, I had an assignment, but there's no way you're going to do it in 4 minutes. So we will hold off on that. We can even do it after the exam if we don't have time Wednesday. But hopefully this starts to make SPSS make a little bit of sense to you. Like I said, I will find the version of this sheet that has the right variables on it, and I will send that to you all. And if I get a chance, I'll even print that out for you and go from there. The good news is the homework is off the right data set. So, you know, I apologize again for printing the wrong one. But yeah, you all are free to go. If you have any questions about SPSS or anything else, you can feel free to come ask me. And if not, I will see you in class on Wednesday.